Okay, excellent. This is all good. We're excited to be here. Welcome to another webinar. Equipment Zone is in the house. This is a special edition where we're going to talk to two of our lead sales reps. We have some interesting questions on hand. I'm excited to be your host, your moderator, I don't know, the guy that's trying to run this show, which is scary. Just think about that. But this session is all about the Epson F2100 DTG printer. And because it's the most popular selling printer in North America, we thought we could talk a little bit about the highlights and some of the diverse companies that have chosen to invest in this technology, in this printer. And then that would allow you to gain some insights and some perspectives from two of the leading sales reps in the entire United States. These two people are really responsible for helping more businesses get started and grow with this technology than probably anybody, but I don't really know that. So I'm prone to exaggerate because I'm in marketing. So I'm just going to spin it and say, yeah, these are the two people that know more about this printer and have helped more businesses get started with this printer and this technology than anybody in the United States. And so we're lucky to have Amy Krulowitz and we're lucky to have Terry Combs joining me because they're going to help share some insights about how these businesses are unlocking the potential. They'll probably share some anecdotes and some stories about some successes, maybe some setbacks. They're going to keep it real, and they're going to share really why people are falling in love with this printer and why there's been a resurgence for this technology. So the title of our session today is Who's Winning with the Epson F2100 printer? And we'll be talking about what kinds of businesses purchase that. So I'm going to say hello to Amy. Amy, thank you for joining me today.
Hello, Jay. Nice to be here. Here's our beautiful New Jersey showroom.
Yes, I was just going to say, welcome from New Jersey. You are in front of an F2100 printer and several printers behind you in our showroom and our solutions.
See the 3070 in the back? That's right behind me.
I see dryers, I see heat presses, all kinds of goodies. So that's exciting. Thank you for joining us from New Jersey. And Terry, welcome from our offices, our new offices here in I almost said New Arizona because it's our new office. What do you think? Terry, look at you, man.
We are in our brand new offices here in Tempe, Arizona. We're about 10 minutes from where were before, but our new offices have more room for equipment. We have over here, we have a brand new classroom where we're going to start doing classes. So we're pretty excited, and it's soundproof really well because we're right by the airport and I hear nothing going overhead. So
love that. Fantastic. Okay, so here is our setup and our session. So far, so good. Thrilled that everybody has joined us today. Thank you for making time in your schedules. This is really a session for you. We're not trying to pat ourselves on the back by making these claims. What we're trying to do is shed some light, spotlight some successes, give you some clues, and share with you some of the things that we've learned on this journey, because it has been a journey. I mean, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but DTG printing, you were pretty much in the very early stages of this technology. What would we say? Is that 17, 18 years now?
About 18 years, yeah, and then which means about 16 years for white ink. And as Scott Fresner, who started me on this journey with the T-Jet, would say, we weren't on the cutting edge of technology, we were on the bleeding edge of technology. So a lot learned, and that learning curve also helped us in like this transition to DTF printing as well, because we've already suffered through a lot of the steps to make this a better process. So it's all very, very, very commercially viable today.
Yes, indeed. So love that. Love the fact that we have progressed. We are currently on the second version from Epson in this cycle. You had experience with previous printers, like you said, with the old US Screen Print and Institute. Those T-Jet days are fond days, I'm sure. I know that's also where Harry Oster, the president of our company, got started, and you two having that relationship many, many years ago. And so, Amy, not to overshadow your experience, you've got just as many years experience as Terry, but you kind of came at this more from the other side, from the solvent side, the wide format side. You know, not so much apparel, but maybe more in the signage industry. Would that be fair to say?
That's right, Jay. As a matter of fact, a little fun fact here. Epson actually came out with a white printer back in the, I want to say it was the 90s. early 90s.
Wow.
And I sold that to the packaging design market
Oh,
because
okay.
they
Yeah.
were doing packaging design on plastic, um, liquor, and fragrances. Those types of packaging needed to be designed, and it was a huge market. And they had a printer. They had a white printer, which was an inkjet printer, and it was as slow as you could be because they had to slow it down so much for that white ink. It eventually, of course, went by the wayside, but I go back a long time with white ink, that's for sure, and the commercial side of the business.
Well, that's great. Well, we're going to lean on both of your experiences. And for now, we do not want to slow this webinar down. We want to increase the pace. So unlike those early days with white ink, but for what I can see, the viewers want to hear some of the creative ways in which customers are using these printers now. Who are some of the, what backgrounds are they in? Where do we find them? What are they doing now? And clearly some of the success stories as they've defined success. So Terry, I'm going to start with you. I want to talk a little bit about, our backgrounds are similar in that we both have a screen printing or apparel decoration background. And you are still a very highly regarded screen printing trainer. So congratulations on that. For those of you who don't know, Terry has never abandoned screen printing, nor will he ever. He still travels all over the country teaching classes, helping people get started in that fun technology. There's just something about grabbing that squeegee and making something. You know what I mean, Terry?
Oh, exactly right. Yes, I was in Chicago last weekend and they had a cold snap. It snowed while I was there. What's up? It's April, Chicago. But and you are correct. I teach screen printing classes around the country, and I remember Harry Oster, who owns Equipment Zone, saying one time, "What would Terry do with his weekends if screen printing ever went away?" but the truth is, the screen printing classes are sold out every time I go and teach one. So it's just as strong as it ever was. The thing is, though, I remember watching the first printer print, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a dream for every screen printer. And we went to trade shows, and screen printers walked up to our booth, and we're printing shirts, one after another. And they said, "Say it ain't so." I spent the last 20 years, and at that time, I've been in the industry for 20 years. I spent 20 years learning to do this, and now you can do it by pushing a button. Yes and no.
Yeah, it's almost unfair, right? It's like, it's not fair.
But interestingly enough, the next year, as we're doing the trade show circuit, in those days we're doing 15, 17 shows, all those same screen printers came around and said, "I didn't know how many orders I turned down until I saw this machine. And every time I said to somebody, I'm sorry, I can't do your 17 family reunion shirts with a 6-color print." And they thought, man, if I had that DTG printer, I could do this order and say, come back in 2 hours. So I think that this is a tool for screen printers. And in my classes, I always say, when I started out in a previous century, I was a screen printer, and the person over here was an embroiderer, and the person over there did transfers. That's not true anymore. There are very few decorators who only do one type of decoration. So direct-to-garment has become an awesome tool for the screen printer. But I'm not going to monopolize all the time.
No. I'm gonna get to Amy here in just a second, but I want to build on that so you said it was like a dream for some of those screen printers, but so why are they so interested in it? Why? I would have thought there'd almost been some like defenses put up, like, oh no, that's not part of our craft, right? But it seems like there's been a big part of those that are buying from us, those that are investing in this technology, they're screen printers. So why is it such a dream for them?
Well, and you're right. It started out with that's not a craft over there. That's pushing a button. That's a desktop printer. But then you have this customer, and every screen printer out there who's listening to this is going to cringe. Somebody walks in and says, "I'm having a family reunion." And you're like, please have 150 people in your family. No, 17. And little Susie's a 2-4, and everybody's got an Uncle Bob. He's a 4X. I don't want to pay for extra screens. And you try to price it so high that they won't place the order, but yes, they do. And you're like, there's no way I can make money on this order. But by having another tool like a direct-to-garment printer, then I'm able to say, you know what, here is an option for you. And guess what? I can do this as a full color decoration for you for 17 shirts or 7 shirts or 1 shirt. So, and Jay, one last point. We've talked to many people in the industry who surveyed, who said garment decoration, garment sales are on a huge rise. Quantities of orders are on a huge decline. It's an Amazon world. I want it. I want one. I want it custom. I want it now. And so decorators, and I talk to screen printers all the time. The people running automatic presses are saying, this customer used to buy 10,000 pieces. They want to order 10,000 again, but they want 100 a week because they don't want to sit on inventory. So the purchasing world has changed to lots more orders, much lower quantities. So direct-to-garment printing goes hand in hand with that.
Perfect. Okay, well, Amy, now to you, my friend. So I know that you also talk to lots of apparel decorators and screen printers, and I'm just curious if you're hearing similar things, whether they be, and maybe they're embroiderers, or maybe they got started in vinyl, and they were cutting vinyl for vehicles or for signage or for front doors or windows and so on and so forth. But what do you hear from some of these apparel decorators or these embroiderers and so on and so forth? Are you hearing similar things?
Well, just to tack on what Terry said, this is another tool. And this is a method by which they get to expand their business and they get to offer the same customer additional products. So it's a lot easier to continue to offer your customer additional products than go out and find lots of new customers as well. Speaking of embroiderers, one of the newest groups I see a trend coming are people who are doing embroidery, but what they want to do first is they want to print a shirt, then they want to embroider over it. And they want to have that three-dimensional look on the shirt. And that I see as a very big trend now. It works beautifully, and the embroiderers are very excited about it. And that's a way that, again, that they can expand what they're doing and offer a little more of a creative product to their existing customers.
Yeah.
And for sign people, it's a natural progression. You're doing signage for, landscaping company. Well, let me print you some shirts for your landscapers. You're doing signage, and at the same time, you're cutting vinyl. Well, obviously, you don't have to cut vinyl anymore. And my saying, weeding is only for gardens. So there's no more weeding. So that's a big plus too. But the screen printers, they want to get away, and sometimes completely, from the cleaning and the screens and the washing. So it all depends on, what their customers are asking for and how well they can provide it.
Yeah, and I love what you brought up when we think about apparel decorators. They're not as well versed in inkjet technology yet, although some are becoming more so because the inkjet technology has crept its way into screen preparation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terry, isn't that true? So film positives, and then it became, so the technology continues to move, continues to shift. I love that you brought up the fact that, it's a lot of work. We're hearing that from other folks in the chat, that screen printing is work. It's literally manual labor, right? It's a lot of steps with a lot of prep before you get that first shirt off the end of the belt. You could have an hour, 2 hours in preparation and setup easy. So I remember those days. I started at the bottom, just like every great apparel decorator, cleaning screens. I could still hear the sound of ripping tape out of the corners. Okay, let's shift into other things. Terry, you know that I do a lot of training at other shows, sometimes sign shows, apparel shows, et cetera, but I often go to the promotional product and branded merchandise shows. And I got to tell you, this last 18 months, post-COVID, now that shows are back, more people than ever before have been asking me about DTG technology and about DTG printers and about, can I really do transfers with the same printer? And we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I can tell you right now, I have 2 or 3 friends that have said, I want to buy that printer. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not holding you back, but talk to Amy, talk to Terry, I'm in marketing. So it's so surprising to me that there have been more promo people and more sign people than ever before that are embracing this. So I don't know if that's a part of the trend. I don't know if it's the pricing scenario, because let's be honest, the pricing is more affordable now than it ever was. So we'll talk about that too. But I just think it's an interesting point that I'm being asked, at a non-traditional decoration show, hey, what about this decoration equipment? So I thought I'd bring that up. But Amy, I still wanted to ask you a question too about thinking about that, your days in front of large format printers and solvent printers and sign folks. What can a car wrap person or a sign person, would it be any easier for them to slide into this inkjet technology because it's very similar, or am I overstating that?
Well, what we're finding with people who are doing car wraps, what's interesting is I'm finding it both ways. I'm finding apparel decorators who want to get involved in car wraps because they see that the technology is there for them. And they have the customers. And then I see the opposite. I see the people doing car wraps and they say, well, wait a minute. If I'm wrapping a van, for a business, well, that business has 25 or 35 employees. I can do their shirts, or I can do tote bags, and I can tack on extra to the van. So it's more than just a basic car wrap. And that's the way, again, that they're expanding their business.
I love
the
that.
Other thing that I'm noticing is that we talk a little bit about race cars. I do have a very dear customer of mine who does a lot of DTF. And we know who he is, and he actually is doing race car suits. So
that's right. Yes. Those
that's a great opportunity.
Fire retardant and all of those
Right,
branding on those
right.
suits. Yes.
Yep. So that's also because the cars are being wrapped, but now how about the suits? So
Right.
again, you're doing multiple things for the same client.
Yeah, that racing industry is constantly shifting, and those sponsors shift weekly. And so sometimes they're doing, maybe it's a vehicle wrap, and then maybe it's vehicle graphics, depending on the day.
And the other thing, though, Jay, I have a customer who takes their printer, their 2100, in a van and goes to the racetrack. And with a digital camera, he's photographing people in front of their beloved cars, and he's making shirts on the spot.
Oh, awesome.
So that's another way that they're expanding.
That's great. I love that point you made about complementing their existing business. They already have the graphics. They already have the customer. The customer is already very engaged in apparel, obviously, promoting their brand, promoting their car, promoting their company. Yeah. So it's a natural. That's a great fit. Very good. Very good. Terry, you'll be happy to know that people in the chat want to make sure that everybody knows screen printing is never going away.
No.
So
those are my peeps.
We all agree. Those are Terry's peeps right there. So Terry, okay, in case it wasn't already crystal clear, I just want to make sure you're saying it's not too late. It's not too late for a screen printer. It's not too late for the promo peeps or the apparel geeks, or I like to call them the printing freaks, meaning we could still jump on this bandwagon of DTG printing, because it's like sometimes you feel like you've missed out, or the train left the station. So tell me about that. Tell me about, is it still a good time to invest in this technology?
Jay, there are so many decorators out there who said, well, I heard horror stories. And yes, early on in DTG, there were horror stories. And what horror stories are there? Converted over paper printers that didn't like the white ink, didn't like the color ink. And those days are behind us, at least with the Epson printer. But no, it's never too late. And Jay, I was just talking to someone this week who said, I've been on the fence about this for at least 5 years, and now it's time. And part of that was, I see your guys' videos, I see all the comments about Equipment Zone on the internet, and I'm feeling more and more confident about making the plunge. So it's not too late out there. It's jump on board, jump in the water. It's warm, and hey, we live in Arizona, so yeah, it is. It's warm.
The water is definitely warm. It almost gets too hot. So that's it. That's a great point, highlighting the fact that it's not too late. And it's interesting to hear people been sitting on the fence for 5 years. But you know what? It is about timing, and it is an investment, and we recognize that. I hope everyone listening today, yes, we are in sales. Yes, Amy's role and Terry's role, even though they're fabulous humans and they're really, really well-rounded with the training, they know a lot. Okay, they're not just trying to sell you a printer. So lean on their experience. But the reality is that yes, this is a sales organization. So it's important though that people understand we are far less interested in just quickly selling you a printer than we are making sure that it's a fit, that you have a plan, and that you can see the return on this investment. Because the reality is Amy, let's go to you. I know you have several dozens, maybe I don't even know more than dozens and dozens of people that come back to you the next year or 18 months later or 3 years later or maybe longer, and they say, okay, I'm ready for my second printer, or I'm ready for this next piece of equipment, right? That's happening. That's not just, I'm not making that up, correct?
Nope. That says a lot about the equipment, and thankfully it says a lot about Equipment Zone as well.
Well, it says a lot about Amy. It says a lot about you and Terry. And I'm not kidding. I know people think I'm always sassy and sarcastic, but it says a lot about your commitment to your growth and the growth of the companies that you serve. So kudos to you. I think it's part of our vibe here at Equipment Zone. It's why we're so engaged in training. It's why we're doing this webinar today. And so, you know, Amy, we've been speaking in general terms, like kind of screen printers or sign makers, but maybe you could get a little bit more specific. I know our listeners, I know our viewers would love to hear something about, you know, think of a business that wasn't even a business yet, right? Sometimes we get those calls. They're not even in apparel decoration, or they're not even in business yet. They're a total startup. Can you think of anybody that you've talked to over the last, I don't know, couple of months, couple of years that wasn't even in business yet? They somehow found us and now they're boom, taken off.
Well, one interesting gentleman I spoke with, and this is something I never even knew about, you know, if a high school theater production gets done, they actually have to buy the rights to the play that they want to produce. And I didn't realize that. And so there's a company where the high school goes to this company and says, okay, we want to do, I don't know, Charlie, the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And they say, okay, it's licensed. So yes, this is going to cost you. This is what it is. And they are able to buy the actual production for it. Well, this particular gentleman decided, you know what? I think I'm going to start producing garments for them. I'm going to make shirts along the same line of the theme of the theater production they're doing and sell them to the schools. So here's somebody who was in the publishing business, totally different business. And now he's providing decorated apparel that goes hand in hand with the productions that the high schools are doing. I just thought that was so brilliant.
It is brilliant. Yeah, it's so funny. You see a need and you fulfill the need. And it's interesting to hear their journeys of how they found us. You know, well, I went to Google and I did it, and then I found some, you know, a Facebook forum group, and then I saw your name come up several times. And so, Terry, same question to you. What are some of these kind of interesting, different? They're not yet screen printers. They're not apparel decorators. They're a startup, or maybe they're an entrepreneur. I'm sure you have something that doesn't fit the traditional mold of apparel decoration that somehow found us. Maybe you could share that story.
Well, probably hundreds of those stories, but here's one of my
We don't
favorites.
have time for hundreds, Terry. I know.
How about one?
How about one or two? One or two.
Well, I worked with someone who came to me and said, I have an ice cream store, and he said, I want to sell T-shirts in my ice cream store, and to be more specific, to really zero in on that niche market. And some people say you should say niche market, but we do T-shirts. I feel uppity calling it niche. So that niche market, he said that he's only open 5 months out of the year, and he is on the coast, and people come to his town to go whale watching. And he said, I'm serving up ice cream sundaes for $5, and I'm watching every single person in my ice cream shop is going through their phone or going through their camera, looking at pictures of the whales that they saw earlier in the day. So he said to me, can I take those pictures and put them on T-shirts? I'm like, absolutely. In fact, you can create a template that says the name of your community, and you could drop in the date and drop in something about whale watching and grab that photo, and 30 seconds later you could be sending that to the garment creator software, and you could be printing out those shirts. And so he went from selling a $5 ice cream, while people are eating their ice cream, he's printing the shirt, so it turned into a $25 sale instead of a $5 sale. And he interestingly enough spends the rest of his time, he and his wife, in their RV touring the US, and then they come back and fire up their printer and fire up the ice cream, and they're off and running. So I think it's kind of a it's the entrepreneur mindset. He saw this opportunity and said, you know, is this possible? Can I do that? I'm like, absolutely, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. I love that story, and I've heard it before, and it still gets me excited, because it's an opportunity for a business owner who's looking for ways to better serve their customer, looking for better profit margins, looking for bundles, things that go together that don't seem to go together.
Right.
And so, you know, we were kidding about the title of this session and saying, you know, from apparel decorators to ice cream shops. Because we literally do have customers that have one. Quickly, anybody else you wanted to mention, highlight, anything that, you know, while we're talking about it, your brain or your mind, Amy or Terry, if you've got any other fun
that brings to mind, Terry, what I like to call the feel good purchase. So a customer of mine is in eyelashes and beauty. And if anyone has ever gone to get a facial or anywhere where they've been pampered, whether it's a manicure or a pedicure or anything having to do with feeling good, they are ready to buy. This is the feel-good people. They walk out of there and they've got a new look. And lo and behold, my customer has all promotional products, printing shirts that have her company name on them and a beautiful design. Because when you're done, and you're spending a lot of money there, but when you're done, you feel so good about your experience that you want to share it. So they're actually selling shirts that they're advertising themselves on, and people proudly wear them. And it's just fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's interesting to see that entrepreneurial spirit. Terry, you were about to share another one. Is that?
Well, I was just going to say that the beauty of what we do is everybody wants the product that we sell. They either want to identify with something, or like Amy's example, they want to say, I was there. They want to wear that shirt that says I was, you know, I caught this marlin in the Pacific, you know, and have a picture of it. You know, my example, this is a screen printing example, so forgive me, but I always say in my classes, you know, and I'll date myself a little bit. When I went to see the Stones, do you think I knew what it cost to make that shirt in the merch tent? Yeah, I knew what it cost to make. Did I pay $50 for the shirt? Of course I did. It was the Stones. And so and you know what?
Right.
People have to buy life insurance, but they want to buy what we have to sell. And for a short run premium, they will pay a premium price for it as well.
Yeah.
Love that. That's a great story, and it does date you. But you know what? The Rolling Stones are still cool. I mean, my kids are like,
they're still touring, man.
Yeah.
Do you still have the shirt, Terry?
I'm sure I do. I'm wearing it now. No.
Well, listen, we've got a few more questions, and the chat's still humming along too. So I was thinking about this in preparation. I'm literally here today because a very long time ago, speaking of the Rolling Stones, speaking of the early 80s, Terry, I was lucky enough there was like a mini trade school operating inside of my high school. And one of the classes that they offered was a graphics class. And it was very cutting edge for the time. We had a giant CompuGraphic printer. We had a vertical camera. We had a film room. We had an AV printing press. And we had a small manual screen printing press. And the second I saw that and I saw t-shirts, I was like, I'm done. I'm here. I found heaven. This is what I want to do. And making shirts and being involved in graphics, I mean, from that day forward, everything I've done, it's always centered around some type of graphic design or some type of apparel decoration. So blessing or a curse, still to be determined. And I talk to my wife, she'll say some days it's definitely a curse, but it got me thinking about high schools. It got me thinking about trade schools and universities. You know, a lot of times our buyers are those types of entities, those types of, you know, non-traditional businesses. And both of you have had experience of those. So maybe tell us, I'm going to start with you, Amy, if you don't mind. Do you have a particular story about a school or partnering with a school or a trade school or universities, or anything you could shed some light on there?
Yeah, out here in New York, actually, I'm in New Jersey, but in New York, they have a lot of vocational communities set up within the school system. So, you know, every county has its own system for VOTEC. And their job is to, you know, train these kids so they have a skill. You know, it's one thing to get a college education, and we can debate that all day, whether or not it has any value today. But the fact of the matter is that people need tradespeople. You know, people need to be able to get clothing printed and manufactured. And these trade schools within the school district are doing a great service for these kids. They're not going to go to college. They either don't have the finances or the wherewithal, but they are going to learn skills that they can take with them the rest of their lives, just like it catapulted you, Jay. And so, yeah, we do have quite a bit of that.
I love that. Terry, any schools, high schools, universities, stories that you remember that you could shed some light on and provide some insights why it works?
Well, I'm going to go on the kind of the broad scale is, you know, we at Equipment Zone, we sell F2100s to high schools all the time. In fact, when I turned my computer on, when I got to the office this morning, there was a PO there from an Arizona high school, and very similar to what Amy's talking about. And the beauty for, you know, it's a fairly easy thing to teach. But can you imagine that this industry has only been around for about 18 years, the direct-to-garment industry. And so for somebody who has a direct-to-garment business out there, if somebody walked in and said, I have experience running a direct-to-garment printer, that's pretty much assured of getting that job, because they're, you know, for screen printers, screen printing's been around for decades and decades and decades. There are lots of folks who will apply for a job who say, yeah, I've got 20 years experience. That does not happen with direct-to-garment printing.
Yeah.
You say somebody with experience, nobody's going to call you. And so, but yeah, we work with a lot of schools, and you know, one of the reasons that they migrate towards the Epson F2100 is because, yes, you can turn this printer off for 2 weeks. Spring break, you don't have to worry about coming back and turning it back on, and fingers crossed, you're just gonna start shirts again. So that once they're shopping for different DTG printers, high schools usually come back to say, okay, this is the printer I want, because it's going to be very forgiving in operation. So
love that.
So, you know, yeah, I don't have a particular high school story, but other than the high school that placed an order.
Well, I've got one that might be inspiring
driving.
for our audience. Yeah, no, I get it. It does happen a lot. And there may be some viewers that are listening and saying, yeah, but that doesn't apply to me. I was hoping for something more there. Here's why I asked the question. I have my other ulterior motive here. Those of you who are tuned in and listening, I have a friend who's done something very remarkable I want to share. And what she has done is she invested in an F2100. She's a very successful, I guess I would say, branded merchandising company, where they're selling hard goods in the promotional products and branded merch world, but they're also getting more involved into apparel decoration. And they've invested in an F2100 specifically because it's mobile. And what they wanted to do was to go visit campuses with this equipment. Now they have a very unique relationship already with a VOTEC or how do you say that? VOTEC? Is that the vocational technical? I don't know, whatever they call them. She had a great relationship, and the kids would often come over once a month and take a tour of her shop, and everyone was gravitating towards, you know, apparel decoration. And so they realized and got together with the city council and the school district, and they're formalizing a program so that kids can see what a legitimate business looks like. and go back and forth. And she realized that if she could help some of these kids get some training now, they might be future business owners. They might be her future employees. So I would encourage everyone that's listening to this to get back involved with some of those schools, look for ways to work together, because even though they may not be buying apparel from you today, I can just about guarantee you get to know the right people and you start to partner with those types of programs. Guess what you're doing? Long-term relationship building, and they're going to come back and buy all that apparel from you for sure. So that's my little soapbox. I thought I'd share that moment with everybody. But Amy, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about these solopreneurs or these mompreneurs. You know, a lot of times we catch people that they were like hobbyists at first. You know, they bought a little Cricut cutter and they bought a little heat press, and Terry and I often giggle when we say, well, what brand of heat press? And they're like, I got the purple one. You know, so which is fine. We're not making fun of you. We really aren't. We get it. You didn't know what you didn't know, and you found a $300 heat press or a $189 heat press, and it probably worked for the first 6 months, maybe even a year. But we find these folks, right? And I'm sure they've called you. I'm sure you've been at the first. You're like, oh boy, here we go again, right? But we get a lot of these folks that end up being super successful. So maybe you could talk to some of these crafty moms or mompreneurs or hobbyists, but then they grow up and they become full-blown businesses.
Well, I've never heard the term mompreneur. I kind of like it. It's a good one. I had a conversation with a lovely woman who lived in the South, and she was a foster mother, well, foster parents to I think there were 4 boys at the time, but she was an ongoing foster parent. And what she would do is she bought the printer because she was making shirts for the boys with a Cricut. And they would go to school in these customized shirts, and it made them feel great. And she was making them their own wardrobes. And of course, she got to the point where it was starting to take off because the other kids wanted shirts too. All these kids' friends wanted shirts. So at that point, she just couldn't do the Cricut anymore. It was just too time consuming. And she was thrilled about the 2100 because now she can make shirts for the whole neighborhood. And here's a woman who was started just to make her children happy, and now it's a business. So that was a really nice story. I like to hear that one.
I love it. Very cool story. Yep. And then they just grow and they grow.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, everybody had an idea for a funny joke T-shirt. Remember, Terry? Remember the good old days? Hey, I got a joke. I got a funny shirt. Our friend and I will say a friend and who I've known for a very long time, mutual friend Jeff Morgenthaler. Jeff used to. He's all about the shenanigans, right? He showed up at a trade show once. And he starts unbuttoning his shirt. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we're getting ready. You know, we got 2 minutes. People are coming in. He's unbuttoning his shirt and he goes, boom, like Superman, and opens it up. And there's this big word that just says that, THAT, that. And I'm sitting there looking and I'm looking and he starts laughing. And finally I'm like, and I just start laughing because how many times have we had somebody come up to us and say, you know what, you should put that on a T-shirt.
That's very Jeff Morgenthaler.
And yeah, totally Jeff Morgenthaler.
He was quite the character.
Quite a character indeed. He's still alive, folks, by the way, so don't worry.
Yes.
Doing well. But Terry, tell us about, same question, crafty moms or crafty dads or entrepreneurs, people that started out in their garage and the next thing you know, here they are, they have a successful business, they've invested in the technology. You know, they're seeing profits of $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month. They're really cooking. Who do you have that fits that mold?
I know a decorator, and he likes to kind of be on the down low, so I'll just say a decorator. But he started out. He and his wife started out in their kitchen, and they started with one Epson F2100, and it was early on in the 2100, so it would have been about 5 years ago. And he started with one and was selling to people who had online stores. So he didn't actually sell to the final customer, but he was also packaging, drop shipping, dropping in your company business card. If you want gold and black wrapping paper, then all the shirts go out in gold and black. If you want pink and blue, they go out pink and blue. He went from his selling shirts from his kitchen to, gosh, about a year ago, told me that he has 12 F2100s now. He bought one and then one and then one and then one. And at 7, he called me up and said, "Hey, Terry, could you get me 5 more?" And yes, I can, by the way. and and at the last conversation we had, he was doing $5 million in sales. He's not in his kitchen anymore, by the way, but just from starting with an idea of, if I do the full package, because everybody wants that on a t-shirt, but they don't necessarily want to buy the equipment. They don't necessarily want to learn how to do it. But I have this idea, and so they have this idea. He puts it into motion for them. Just send me the artwork. Send me what you want to do. Send me the address. Send me the size. I'll take care of the rest. And he built his business from 0 to $5 million just by helping other people fulfill their dreams. So it's always out there. It's always possible. Everybody, and everybody started somewhere,
Right.
So, and every major company out there.
Yep.
Well, I love that story. I love the fact I know who you're speaking about, and I think it's just another success story. And you know what? I want to be sure to make this point. How we define success does not need to be in the terms of a $5 million a year business.
Right.
It might be an extra $1,000 a month, and that's okay. And we have helped many startups. That's all they wanted. They're not trying to turn this thing into some empire. They want a little bit more freedom. They want a little bit extra cash. They want to have some fun. It's something very creative. There's something about being a maker, and you still get that spirit of making something, when you're using an F2100 DTG printer. So I just don't want people to think that they're listening here that we're trying to overhype this, and it's, you got to be $1 million before you can be considered a success. Not at all. A lot of technology here I want to talk about quickly, and we're going to transition a little bit. Things evolve. Things change. You guys have both been around the block, and I don't mean that in a negative way. When I say you're seasoned veterans, it means you have lots of flavor, not that you're old, okay? So think about this. Think about white ink. Was it possible in the beginning? No, now it is. Think about the F2000, the predecessor to the printer we have now. And it was a little slower, it was a little clunkier, you had a little bit more maintenance. Now we fast forward to the F2100, less maintenance, prints faster, prints better, more advantages and more opportunities to use software with it now. So things get better, the speeds are better. Technology just keeps pushing forward, and there's nothing we can do to slow that down. And so to me, and I want all of our listeners and watching, think about the value. Think about how what you invested in gets better with time, not worse with time. Yes, it's a piece of equipment, and yes, it depreciates in value a little bit, just like our cars. But the value of what you learn, how you've built your business, it's a tool. We've said that from the beginning. Amy said it, and you said it, Terry. It's a tool in our toolbox. And so I want to talk about now, as technology has moved forward, what new wrinkle has presented itself in the last 18 months? Terry, I'm going to take it to you first. When you first heard the words DTF, did you have any idea what people were talking about?
I did not, Jay. And in fact, a lot of our listeners know I do a podcast, The Two Regular Guys. And Aaron Montgomery, who I do the podcast with, he sent me a message and said, "Hey, what do you know about DTF?" And I said, I don't know. What is it? And that was less than 2 years ago. And I will confess, as a screen printer, when I first heard the concept of it and saw people outputting these transfers, I thought, this is going to be a novelty print. It's not going to wash well. It's going to look like back in the day where you used to get the shirt transfer in the cereal box. Remember that?
and your mom would iron it on. The actual iron for shirts,
Exactly right. But once I saw it, I saw the process, and then the washability. And at Equipment Zone, we early on did lots of wash testing and stopped at 60 washings without any degradation of the image. I was floored by that. And so at that point, I knew this is going to be a very important part of what we do. And the beauty for all of us is with the direct-to-garment printer, 100% cotton, high cotton content blends. Can I print a poly shirt? Yes. Should I? Probably not, because of the steps in the process. As the folks at Epson say, use the printer for what it's made to print. 100% cotton, high cotton content blends. But with DTF transfers printed on an F2100, I can print anything. I can print 100% poly. I can, and you know, an example is someone was telling me they had 25 shirts to do, 100% cotton, and the person also wanted 5 shirts with the wicking fabric, you know, 100% man-made material. So after printing 20 shirts, went ahead and did 5 transfers, boom, and so finished the entire order on the F2100 without skipping a beat. So it's DTF has been revolutionary. Again, let me tell everybody, DTF isn't going to replace DTG. The white toner machines, it's going to replace DTG. Never happened. All these processes are never going to replace screen printing. All these processes are not going to replace anything that we do technology-wise. Just an additional tool in what we do. You know, we used to sell a hat attachment for the F2100, but you could basically only print the dad hats, the soft front hats. We don't even have that on our website anymore, because you can print 20 hat graphics on a DTF transfer, cut them apart by an $800 hat press or a $1,900 hat press, depending if you want a Cadillac or not, and just heat apply all those hats with the DTF transfer. So it's really, really opened the door for lots of new things. And as you said, Jay, at the beginning, really invigorated direct-to-garment printing.
Yeah. Amy, I want to switch it over to you here in a second. DTF stands for direct to film transfers. And the exciting part for all of our listeners is that we're talking about the same printer, we're talking about the same ink and the same software. So Amy, did it blow your mind just a little bit after we started getting our own experience with it? When you first saw in New Jersey, you saw what we were doing and we were trying, you were there in the early days trying to figure out how to make this work, and different films we were testing and different powders for adhesives we were testing. What was it like for you when you saw those early days of the direct to film transfers?
Oh, well, you know, when I think about my journey, it started with photography and when I was a kid, and I never forget the feeling when I saw the image come up in the chemical tray. All of a sudden there's an image in front of you. And so when we started with film transfers, I just couldn't get over the wow appeal. It was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I have a piece of film and I have ink and I put this powder and now I can put it on anything, you know. And one of the things that came to mind, of course, was microfiber, because microfiber was huge in, 18 months ago. I mean, everything was microfiber and everyone wanted to put it on their, Epson printer platen and print directly. And now they could put it anywhere on that. And it just was magical. We did a lot of testing here. As you can see, we got a lot going on. We've done a lot of testing here at Equipment Zone, and we want to make sure that the products are right for our customers before we release them. And it was a lot of fun testing, I have to tell you that. But one of my favorite things to tell customers, because it comes up all the time, is what inks do I have to put in my 2100 to do this? And I just love to say, same ink, same printer, same software, same everything. All you're going to do is put a piece of film in there, and it just blows their minds.
Yeah,
it's great.
It is mind blowing. We get excited about it. I got excited about it. I realized how many new profit centers this would create for our existing businesses, how many new doors it would open, the fun of being able to print on things that normally we wouldn't or couldn't, because previously we would have crushed this hat. There was just no great way to do a direct to garment print on there. And now, you're looking at new opportunities when you see things like the hat I'm wearing, the shirt that I'm wearing, this can coolie or koozie, all of these things, these were transfers, you know, and it's just been fun for us to be experimenting with it, to learn with our customers. And people say, well, can you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, try it. Next thing you know, I'm printing on cork because it works, because you can. It's the same printer, same ink. So I hope the viewers listening, you know, can feel our genuine excitement about this, because that door has not closed, not even close. And there are so many more opportunities now. So one printer can literally open up hundreds of new doors, not just 100% cotton t-shirts or 100% cotton hoodies. So for us, that's the value. The value has been that it's the same printer. And so it's like having two printers in one, and being able to expand out your substrates. You know, we would kind of snicker when people said, well, I just want to do 100% polyester. You know, and like I said, I'm going to brag about Terry and Amy. You know, they would say, listen, can you? Like Terry said, yes. Should you? You shouldn't. It's not a profitable opportunity for you. If you had to do it to save your kids' lives, yes, you could do it. But it's not what the printer was designed to do. And so people are like, but, and we're just like, listen, we're just trying to be real with you. We wouldn't do it. It just isn't. It isn't there in terms of value. And so again, to compliment Amy, to compliment Terry, helping businesses grow. That's what we want to do at Equipment Zone. That's the value that we think we bring to the table, with support, with experimenting, with testing, with washing, with the training videos like the one we're doing now. And by the way, shout out to the rest of the team. We have lots of tech folks that are supporting us behind the scenes. Sometimes you see us on camera. Truth be told, it's all the people you don't see on camera that make this engine hum. And having a large tech department means we can do lots of videos. So go check out our YouTube page. There's been a lot of chat in the chatter. And by the way, Amy, you have a fan. You have a friend.
Uh-oh.
His name is Francis Milos.
Francis. Hi, Francis.
And he has been
I got your
very
text
helpful.
message.
He's been very helpful in answering lots of questions. So you have a junior, you've been deputized, Francis. You thank you for answering all of the questions in the chat.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, and then we're wrapping this up now. We've gone about 48 minutes here. I just want to say a couple things, and then I want to give it back to Terry and back to you, Amy. Feedback from our customers. What has the feedback been? Because I personally, and like Terry, I at first was a snob about the feel of the transfer, but I also have recognized that how we print it, how we apply it, how we prepare the artwork, the substrate that we are printing on, and then ultimately, I took myself out of the equation and stopped projecting what I like and just would show it to customers. And more often than not, clearly 7 times out of 10, people would feel it and they would go, that's great. Look at the color, or look at the detail. And that's when I knew it's not about how it feels for everybody. You might not love the way it feels. It feels different. But when you can get this detail, my camera's not really zooming in on that. There we go. I mean, the little splatters to these really tiny dots. Wow, got me excited. So Terry, to you first, and then Amy, we'll let you wrap it up. Anything you want to say from feedback from customers or the DTF direct to transfer opportunities? Is there something else that you want to add to that conversation?
I think that it's been a great opportunity for DTG operators. Our techs, like you said, have spent a lot of time perfecting it. So they've really helped our customers to really get to do a really good job with this process. And Jay, Amy, and I were both at the Atlantic City show here not long ago. We were both, and we had a conversation about this after the show. We were stunned at how many people who had an F2100 still didn't know, wait a minute, you can do a DTF transfer on an F2100. What do I need to buy? Film and powder. That's all you need, film and powder. We'll help you take care of the rest. So I'm going to say that the reaction from our customers out there and people who have F2100s who aren't necessarily our customers are very, very excited about the new opportunities that DTF gives them.
Yeah.
Amy, same question to you. Have you seen anything?
I'll echo that. So the one thing that I like to make customers understand is, again, it's a tool. So, you know, maybe you want to make a tote bag. Okay, put it in the printer. It's cotton. Maybe you want to put it on a jacket. Okay, well, then make a piece of film and transfer it that way. There's so much opportunity with one piece of equipment, and the investment is so well worth it. It's because you get so much out of it. And I think that that's what the customers, and I hope most people are starting to realize that, is that this investment is not just for one particular thing. It's not just for this shirt. It is for a whole variety of products, promotional goods, clothing, signage to a certain extent. Whatever it is that you can imagine and put on something, either in a heat press or on a garment, it is yours.
Love that. Great points, guys. I'm inspired. It makes me want to go buy a printer. No, I'm kidding. That was not really the point, although if that's the outcome, we're excited. But we did want to kind of have a no spin talk today about some of the advantages that our customers have shared with us, whether it be just strictly apparel decoration using the F2100 for what it was built to do, or now being able to kind of have it as a, I don't know if hybrid is the right term. I don't know if that's going to make sense to some folks, but just the afforded ability of having it do two very unique things: print directly on apparel or print on a transfer to be heat applied on other non-cotton substrates. So for me, this webinar has been inspiring. I hope there's been some folks maybe that are listening now or will be listening in the future that got inspired to get into the DTG game, to realize what Amy said. It's just another great tool in your toolbox, to listen to what Terry said, and remember, it's not going away to anytime soon. DTF transfers are not replacing DTG printing, just like DTG printing did not replace screen printing. These things can complement each other well, and you can really have a fun business, a creative business, and you get to decide what success means. And maybe it means big bucks in the bank account for you. And maybe it just means more time to spend, having fun with family and friends and your kids, et cetera. So however you define that success, we are genuinely committed to helping you find it. So I'm going to pose the last two questions to both of you. How should people get in touch with you if you want to reach out to Amy? And let's go with Amy first. Amy, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, the best way to reach me is you can send me an email, amy.k@equipmentzone.com. You can call the office here at 201-797-1504. And I hope those of you who are listening know from experience, if you call the office and leave a message for me, you hear from me pretty quickly.
I love that. I love that indeed. So I'm going to give it to Terry here in just a second, but a quick plug again. This is where you can go to our YouTube channel. We have hundreds of videos. 90% of them are training based, training related. Occasionally we'll have a new product reveal, and so that's not quite training, but I still want you guys to know about it, that we're very committed to the training. Go back. The content that we've shared has been great. It's very helpful for a lot of people, especially if you're just starting this journey. Here's the key contact info. Terry, best way for people to reach to you?
Absolutely. And by the way, I wanted to throw in, if somebody's listening and says my F2100, my garment creator software doesn't have an option for DTF, it does. Reach out to our support team and they'll help you get that set up. You can find me at Terry, Terry, at equipmentzone.com, or just call the 1-800-408-0040 number at the office. And I, just like Amy, I will get right back. And Amy, you probably hear this all the time too. Someone will say, I didn't expect to hear back so quickly.
It's very true. They're actually shocked when we call them sometimes.
All right, well, I'll let you guys get back to it. We appreciate everybody that's joined us today. I hope that we've highlighted some of the people, our customer base, the kinds of customers that are winning with this F2100 printer from Epson. We're obviously biased, but we love it, we love it, we love it. So if you have questions about it, I think there are a few people in the United States of America, in North America probably, but we don't sell outside of the US, but there are a few people that have had more experience, more training, more insights, more time with this printer than our team. So we really are a resource. We want to make sure that people get that information out. If you did not buy your printer from us, somebody asked this question in the chat, but you feel like you need additional training, or maybe you hired a new employee and they need additional training, we can set that up for you. There is training available for sale. You have to book it in advance. It's a 4-hour opportunity to really go start to finish with a very well, somebody who's got tremendous experience in setup and giving you all of the resources you need to see success. So look to our website for that information, or reach out to me and I can make sure that you get that hookup. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Say goodbye to Terry and bye Amy until we are joined again with a future
See you
webinar.
again.
Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.